Hey, we're live. Hello and welcome back to your midweek addiction. That's right, it is the Game Huggers podcast. It's Wednesday night, October the 17th, 2018. We are here and we are proud to present our two amazing panel league guys of the best times ever that have ever been, ever to ever, to ever to ever to ever, and ever, forever to ever. It is Twan joined podcast this week. We're going to be talking about some amazing things that are going to be amazing to your amazing ears. Tweak, how you doing?
Doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. Dragon Master Dan, how are you?
I don't
sir?
know if I'm cutting out or you're cutting out or what's cutting out here. Tweak looks okay from a video standpoint, but you're frozen, but I'm doing swell. Tweak, can you hear
Dragon
me?
Master Dan, swelling up or whatever. Sounds like you.
I can hear both of you, yeah, but Josh is frozen.
Okay.
Frozen. Look at it. I'm waving my hands.
Okay, I see him waving his hand.
You're moving now.
Okay. Okay. Well, that sucked. I hope at least the intro came in all right. Yeah, this week we're going to be doing a few things. We're going to talk about some recent pickups. Dan's got an amazing pickup to show. I have nothing to talk about as far as pickups this week. But our topic of the week is going to be bosses and boss battles and some of our favorite moments against bosses in video game history. So that'll be exciting. That'll be fun to talk about. But for pickups, anything that you guys have to talk about, Connor? Or?
I have got Jack and shit this week, so guess it's all Dragon Master Dan.
I guess so. So I finally got this in the mail. This is Holy Diver for the NES, and this is licensed by IREM, publish of a Famicom exclusive game that is on the Nintendo Entertainment System in this case. So
is that fan translated, or is that?
I don't believe it is, because I don't think there's any text in the game that was in Japanese in the Japanese version. As bizarre as that sounds,
Really?
But it came with some stickers, some pins, a notebook, and a boxed and manualed copy of the game, and it's limited to I don't know, a certain number of copies. I think it was 2,900 is the one I got. There was a white edition of it earlier as well, and it's a fun Castlevania-like game that has a lot of challenge to it, to say the least. But from what I've played of it, is a lot of fun, and is one of those games that on the Famicom was always very expensive and difficult to come by. So I'm glad to be able to pick that up at a reasonable price in a legal way from the company, I believe it is Retrobit, who manufactured these.
That's amazing. That Retrobit. So you're saying that actual quality product that came out of the Retrobit company?
Yes, and the game worked fine on my top-loading NES system as well. So yeah, while they're known for kind of crummy quality clone consoles, they made a reasonably decent NES game. I know that they've had a couple of other NES things that they've published. There was a Data East collection they made that apparently did not work properly on a toaster NES because it was difficult to pull out of the cartridge. And believe me, if there's people who want to know about difficulty pulling out, it's Josh. So, in any event,
wow.
So what I was going to mention. They also published an R-Type that has a Super R-Type and R-Type 3. I guess it's something Lightning. I don't know. But Blue Light. No, that's not it. I don't know. But the Third Lightning, I think, is what it's called. But they made a combo card of that as well, which they also licensed from IREM. And I think Retrobit at some point had something called like a Retrobit Generation, which was one of those clone emulator systems that also had Holy Diver on it that they had licensed from IREM before. So
crazy.
It's definitely a neat pickup and something fun for people who, if you've got an NES and want to play something interesting, Holy Diver is definitely it, but it is a tough game.
I'm really glad to hear it works, because who was it that just recently did? I think it was like a Street Fighter 2
Double Dragon, or
there was
Super Double.
No, it was like a limited edition Street Fighter 2, and there was like a
I am 8-bit.
Oh, okay.
Wasn't that Capcom?
Well, Capcom licensed it.
Capcom licensed
I am
it.
8-bit, I think.
Yeah, to those guys. And I remember if you put it in an actual Super Nintendo, it would like catch fire.
Shut up.
I don't believe it would actually. Yeah, it was expensive. I don't believe it would actually catch fire, but I think they had put in their, like warnings, like do not actually use on a Super Nintendo.
Why? What the fuck?
Well, more than likely, it had to do with voltages. They were probably using cheap AliExpress quality cartridges. Again, I'm just speculating. I don't know this with any certainty. And there's a chance that could cause the cartridge or system to overheat. And they simply made these to be sold as collector's items that are on on a Super NES cartridge, and that may or may not actually work with your Super Nintendo.
There was another company they're charging $100 for something that their advertising plays on a Super Nintendo.
Right,
exactly. It's like, we built this and it's terrible.
There was another company that did a Super Double Dragon 5 or something, or something along those lines, or Super Double Dragon 4, like a port of the Super Famicom version on Super NES or something weird like that.
Right. Yeah, I know it. I remember seeing that.
And the cartridges, from my understanding, are not officially supported on Super Nintendo hardware, but are supported on like Retro Duos and some of the clone on a chip consoles, which is very, very strange as well.
Yeah, that was the Return a Double Dragon, I think that they.
It might have been, and believe me, a lot of those copies were returned.
I don't blame them. You get it, and it's like, well, I can't play this on the system it was designed for. Like, I'm going to be a little pissed off.
Exactly, but yeah, yes, we can. So yeah, the Holy Diver is working, which is a nice positive thing, and it seems to be a decently well-made cartridge. It's the correct shape and things of an NES game, so you can easily get it in and out of the system, which was not the case with the Data East collection that was released by Retrobit at some point in the past. I can see Josh is just kind of slow motion miming his way into things, but
yeah, no, I was just jumping into the chat to see if there's anybody interested and wanted to talk. I just said, hi guys. Feel free to chat along with the podcast and give us your feedback here.
So let's move on to the topic at hand: video game boss battles.
Hold on. Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me?
You're cutting out a little bit, but go ahead.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. There's one thing I wanted to do real quick before we jumped into that, and that's share this really funny tweet that I thought was really funny. It's not even really game related, but I enjoyed it. It's really funny. So someone had worked on a bot. He had a bot that he had forced to watch over 1,000 hours of lawyer commercials, and then asked it to write a lawyer commercial of its own. And he started to put it together, and he had an entire first page, like a script for this commercial. And I think it's really funny. Do you guys want me to read it to you? It's funny.
Can you read it in a Peter Francis Geraci voice?
Well, how does everybody know what that is?
He's known worldwide, damn it.
I guess so. Holy shit, that's awesome. All right, so you enter the firm's law room. A lawyer stands next to a shelf with books. The books are very wide. They have eaten too many words. The lawyer says, have you been hurt in an accidental car? Has the government sold your lungs without asking nicely? Are you mesothelioma? Answer me. The lawyer opens a briefcase. It's full of lemons, the justice fruit only lawyers may touch. The lawyer continues, if so, you can act entitled for money. I'll help. I graduated from law school, and all my teachers were better than dogs. It says we're bitten by dogs. Words scroll across the bottom of the screen. These are cases the lawyer takes. Sorry. Unfair stabbings, illegal shoes, music too Canadian, sue the rain, divorce your toilet, and fake sons.
Okay. This guy's got a better ad than our local ambulance chaser.
Well, in all fairness, after watching many episodes of Maury Povich, fake sons is a serious problem.
Lawyer continues. I have been a lawyer for over 35 weekends, and I'm currently dating the Bill of Rights for fun. We see the Bill of Rights. It's in love. The lawyer will break its heart. There's nothing we can do. The lawyer continues. Let me use it to send your asbestos to court. I will wear 2 suits, and I promise to steal the judge's gavel for you. The lawyer opens up the jacket of his first suit. Millions. Sorry, this is so fucking awesome. Okay, I'm sorry. The lawyer opens up the jacket of his first suit. Millions of gavels pour out. His promise has worth. The lawyer continues. My clients never go to jail town. We see his past clients. A tornado, and a tornado. The lawyer continues. Remember, you don't pay any money unless you pay us money. Call for a free use of phone. And then at the end, the phone digits appear. It's your social security number. The end.
So it sounds like Phoenix Wright was translated by the people who worked on Castle Shikigami too.
I've read this like 100 times today. At first, I was just like, okay, that's really fucked up. But the more I read it, especially the lawyer opens his second check to his first coat, and millions of gavels pour out, and then the last line with your social security number. I don't know. I'm sorry. I read it, and I was in tears, giggling like an idiot at work today, and people just kept asking me what it was, and then I'd link it to them, and they're just like, awesome, great, and I'm sorry.
Dude, I hate that though, and it's like you find something that's you're basically crying of laughter, and then you show it to somebody, and they're like, "That's the dumbest thing I've ever fucking
seen." Phone digits appear. It's your social security number. All right, I'm sorry. I'm done. Okay, boss battles. Let's talk boss battles. We had when I started reading that, we had 1 viewer. Now we're down to 0.
Who on earth?
Way to keep them entertained.
Who'd you scare away? I wonder.
I don't know. No, I don't know what's going on. Nobody's online right now. Apparently, nobody's watching. That's all right. All right. Boss battles. This is going to be, I think, an interesting topic because there's been like, honestly, when this idea first came up, and it was John, old forum member Jay Lude and King Drool. He came up with the idea of let's talk about boss battles because yesterday was actually National Boss Day or whatever. And when he first mentioned that, the very first thing that popped in my head were fighting games. And it's weird because I think of like Street Fighter or I think of World Heroes, and World Heroes on a difficulty setting. Neo Gigis at the end of the game, what an asshole. I think of like Shang Tsung from Mortal Kombat or Goro from Mortal Kombat 1. Holy shit! Like those boss battles, like that was like when you finally get that far in the game and your heart's just thumping and you're like, I can't lose, I don't want to lose this. And then those bosses, M. Bison in Street Fighter, the first time I got to him. Sagat from the original Street Fighter, like those boss battles. Oh my god! I think fighting games are a really huge, are really big ones that I initially just think of as far as like when you get to that point and you can't lose, but you do because they kick your ass until you figure out their like patterns and stuff. But
I think the problem with fighting games is that they have a tendency to be quarter munchers by design, even if they were ones designed for home game consoles. So, like, I always remember as a kid playing Final Fight, and Sodom, I can't remember what the Super Nintendo version of them was called, Katana or something, would just run around and, without any way to avoid or counterattack, could stab you. You could be doing your special, you could be jump kicking, doesn't matter. If you knock both swords out of his hands, you're going to get hit, and it's completely unavoidable. Yep. And that's the kind of level of irritation that bothers me with fighting game bosses. I have a game with the best boss battles in my mind, but I want to see what ideas you guys had.
I don't. Tweak, you want to jump in?
I remember, I think the first one that popped into my head that wasn't Doom, because Doom was the first. I mean, that's pretty much the first thing that shows up in my mind every time we talk about anything ever. But was getting to Mutaro in Mortal Kombat Trilogy, and then getting like one or two shotted by that stupid bat kick move he's got, and just wanting to snap that controller in half.
Oh yeah,
It's like, you know, I'm finally up there at the top of it, and it's like, oh, you're dead.
Any Mortal Kombat boss, I constantly thought were just freaking terrible. They're so hard.
Well, they always made it so it's like, you know, 3 hits from them will kill you, but you got to juggle them for 60 seconds if you want to do anything.
Yeah. What did another? I guess like Dural from Virtua Fighter. Those were always interesting fights because you only had 1 round with her. That was always weird because it's like you do best 2 out of 3 and all the other fights, and then you get to the boss of the game. You have 1 round.
That was the same with King of Fighters 98. I remember the first time going through that one, you get into
God, yeah.
and it's like the difficulty not only just spikes insanely, but it's like, you know, yeah, you only have to win 1, and he's taking out all 3 of your team before you're even like, you know, halfway done.
Yep.
You could just start at the beginning with Art of Fighting 2, and everyone kills you.
Art of Fighting 2 is tough. Yeah.
Art of Fighting 2 is pretty tough.
I like it though. I think it's a great game. I like it. It's interesting because it's more of a grapple-based system fighter. That's a 2D game. If you think of it as like it's honestly the game that it's most similar to, in my opinion, is Virtua Fighter. Virtua Fighter and Art of Fighting 2 are so similar. It's weird. And wasn't that basically the game? So the fluid animation in Art of Fighting 2 is beautiful. Like I love the way it looks. It's so pretty. But like they were initially making it. This is just what I've heard from rumors. I'm nothing to back this up at all. But when they were initially making it, they didn't even want to call it Art of Fighting 2. But then like some SNK executives were like, hey, this is a perfect game to make as a sequel. And so they wound up making it completely different just because they never wanted to make a sequel to Art of Fighting, whoever the developers were or whatever.
They should have taken that strategy after they made Art of Fighting 2 and used it, because Art of Fighting 3 is absolutely god-awful by comparison.
Hold on. There is an Art of Fighting 3?
There is an Art of Fighting 3, yep.
Oh, I'm thinking of Art of Fighting 3. That's the Path of the Dragon. That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, that's the one where they actually did the motion capture stuff for it. So it's like it looks really good, and everything else about it is just terrible.
I didn't mind that one actually. That's one I was talking about. Art of Fighting 2 is actually pretty good. Art of Fighting 3 is a very different game. That's the one where it's more of a grappling game, and they didn't even initially want to make it an Art of Fighting game.
Right, but Art of Fighting 2 comes at you with blood vengeance from the moment you turn the game on.
At least it's possible to finish, you know, unlike, what is it, King of the Monsters 1, and there's another one I think that's like, it's hard-coded. It's hard-coded in there that you can't actually finish in 1 credit.
Are you serious?
Well, yeah, you can't. It's not possible because just the number of throws and things that you can't do. If you get at close range, you can only win one of any number of grapples. It's not possible to win more than once.
There's some stat in there it's based on, like, it goes down depending on how well you do. And if you actually make it to the final boss on 1 credit, it's impossible to win the fight. You have to start over.
That's gross. That sucks. So you have to like put in more quarters.
So you have to pay them more money. Yep.
That's awesome.
Or use more credits if you're playing on a home console.
Well, okay. Any other fighting game bosses that we can think of that are like, ooh, that's a big one. What about like let's jump around a little bit here. What about like a current gen game that has a huge boss battle in it that like really got your heart thumping?
I mean, I think there were some really innovative ones in Super Mario Odyssey, if we're going back to that. I remember there's one where you're operating a water device and you're flying over a giant octopus, and there's a lot of kind of interesting things that they did with the game mechanics in Mario Odyssey, because that's, you know, what it is. It's a platform game that made the boss battles interesting and fun, and I don't want to use the term innovative, but they added a gimmick to a lot of them, which made them unique. I think if we're going to go old school, the game that came to my mind was Raisin Bar 3. Now, Raisin Bar Raisin Bar 3 has some really interesting boss battles and in general some pretty interesting ideas. So one of the boss battles, for example, for a shoot 'em up actually involves deflecting particular types of shots back at the boss to do damage. Otherwise, you can't harm the boss. You don't generally see that kind of thing in a shoot 'em up game.
Yeah, right.
Another one is you're rotating around a boss and you can only take off pieces of it at a time. There's a level that goes backwards. The game itself has an almost treasure-like affinity for little gimmicks with every level, and I think that's something that made it both brilliant and great. Obviously, there's a lot of great treasure bosses as well, but I don't want to turn this into let's talk about Astro Boy and Gunstar Heroes and all the other great treasure games.
Yeah, but they're great games. I mean, the boss battles in Gunstar Heroes are some of the most memorable in my mind. I love, man, that's
the whole dice rolling setup is
so good.
The board game.
Yeah, the board game. I love that part.
Yeah, my favorite boss in that game would be in the mines with the mine shaft when you're flying down on the what's the minecraft or the mine, I won't say Minecraft, but the mine, like the train or the train track,
the mine cart.
Yeah, the mine cart. That's it. And you're just flying down the hill, and you're going down in the tube and the tunnels of the cave, and then you're going sideways, and you're up and down, and then all of a sudden you fight that big boss at the end where it comes on and it starts shape shifting into like a gun and all kinds of other things, right? It's like shooting at you and everything, and then it's running on the track and everything with you. That is amazing. That was really, really cool. A game similar, Contra 3, has some very memorable bosses, but I think one of the most memorable in that game, it comes as like stage 4 or whatever it is. It comes at the end, there's just a wall in the background, and also you see the hands come through, and it rips it open.
Oh,
and that big head, that
blue skeleton-looking thing that comes through there.
That the first time I saw that, and this is maybe a year or two into the 16-bit era, and you don't really understand fully what that era was capable of because we had 8-bit. We understood what games were, and man, when Contra 3 came out and there were some of those crazy boss battles, that changed the rules on all gaming from there on out. And it was like that boss, you're running around, climbing up to the wall and getting around on top and like shooting at it while it's chasing you with the flames and everything coming at you. The first time I saw that, I had to like stand up and put the controller down. I'm just like, fuck this. How are we supposed to do this? Like, what the fuck just happened? Like, this is out of this world how great that was. That's, man, and your heart is just thumping like crazy when you see something like that for the first time.
Contra 3, just the whole game is fantastic. Like, I mean, even that first boss, the giant like zombie turtle looking thing, that's not really all that.
I always like that.
Hard, but it's like that. Yeah, that's so cool. Like you just bust through that building.
You fight that same boss again later, I think, in Contra Shattered Soldier or whatever it was, where it's like they tried to like up it with all the gore and shit, and they added a whole bunch of stuff to it, and it just wasn't the same. Like it wasn't. They just don't understand. It was about Contra in the original couple games that made them so special. It wasn't that they were over the top gory and ridiculous.
I mean, all the later Contras, I think, ended up kind of sucking in comparison.
Yep, that's very true. I think there's Contra 4 on the DS, and then
there was Shattered Soldier, and then there was one other one on the PS2. There was
there was also the Hardcore 2.
Yeah, there was like one decent one and then one terrible one.
Yeah, there was the Contra Adventure. That one fucking sucked.
That was it. Yeah, that game is terrible.
Shattered Soldier was okay, but Contra 4 sucked.
Did you say Contra? Oh yeah, Contra 4 on the DS sucked. Is that what you said?
I didn't like it. It looked like Contra but played like shit. And then there was like the hardcore fucking.
There was Neo Contra.
That was basically Metal Slug with Contra art. That game sucked. Did you ever like? A lot of people hate it. Huh?
I'm sorry. I was going to say the only ones that I would say post Contra hardcore on the Genesis, the only ones that were any good, in my opinion. I thought Contra 4 was one of them, but I guess maybe it's whatever.
I think a lot of it had to do with the two screens. Sometimes it would just piss me off because like I would run into shit, like stuff like that. Part of it was just the DS. I think if it was just on a big TV and didn't have the fucking divide, it would have been fine.
Yeah, that and then Contra Rebirth on the Wii. That was a good game.
Rebirth controlled kind of weirdly.
You know, a lot of people make fun of it, but I liked Contra Legacy of War on PlayStation, the top-down one. Like, I don't know if
Really?
you guys, yeah, like it's not by any means a great Contra. It's still a fun game though, and
That was
part
on
of it's
Saturn too, right?
was it? I
I
think it
think so.
was. Yeah, I can't remember. I played the PlayStation one as a kid all the time, and it you know it was like the better version of those stupid top-down levels in Contra 3.
Oh, I hated those the forced mode 7 in any game. It just seems
Yeah,
like it always
Yeah.
sucks.
I
well,
didn't
Legacy of War though didn't have it where like, oh, your foot touched the pit, you died immediately. You just like, it was so dumb in Contra 3. Like, you touch the highway wrong and it collapses and you die.
Wow.
You know, Legacy of War had like 4 different characters you could pick that were all kind of interesting, and like some of the levels they were fun, and you know it was kind of goony because it was like a PlayStation game trying something different, but some of the parts of that game were actually pretty fun and had like weird Contra-y feely throwbacks and stuff. Like you know, you fight the turtle thing, if I remember right. You fight the turtle thing like from Contra 3, the big dumb turtle that like just barfs at you. There's like similar crap in it, so it wasn't awful. A lot of people make fun of it, but it's like I don't know. It's not that bad. I'd give it like a 7 out of 10 for a Contra game, probably.
It sucks because it's it's one of those complaints where everybody's like, I wish they would try something new, and then when they try something new, it doesn't play like the old game does.
This top-down game doesn't play like the side scroller. Well, no shit. Thank you.
It's like every time they're like, Nintendo just releases the same old, same old stuff, and then they're like, when Nintendo tries to do something new, and they're like, well, I don't like this because it doesn't play like anything else I like.
Yeah, and the Contra Legacy of War had the cool little like jungle level with the boats and stuff, and there was like the arcade thingies in it. It had a bunch of stupid crap in it that was fun, but the cool thing about it though was the 4 characters you could pick, because there was like an alien, like you could play as a fucking alien. There was like a robot dude.
But how
Like-
were the boss battles though?
Farm? What? Let's drop the cheese in. It's fucking cheese. And the thing is, the boss battles were fun partially because of the fact that it was top down. You got that almost like vertical shooter boss kind of feel sometimes with it. Like,
Yeah, sure.
You never really have that in a Contra game, and now all of a sudden you have it where it's like you're moving like this, like going, oh fuck, like while stuff is flying at you. Whereas a lot of the Contra bosses, they're dumb. Contra has horrible boss battles because they're just, once you figure out the gimmick, it's like, this is stupid. Like the ones I hate the most are in Contra 3, when the Powell Peralta skeleton guy rips through the wall.
no,
That was amazing.
No,
that was like
that is a great boss fight.
It's fun, but once you know how it works, it's so dumb. You just go in with those the crash missiles. If you just go like this while shooting and everything blows up and you don't have to do anything, it's really cool the first time you play it, and the effect will still be awesome when he rips through the wall. But that battle is like so boring and easy, and it's still cool though. But I just hate that sometimes like the Contra battles, once you know the gimmick, the battle just it's like there's no, like, you just go on autopilot and just do this.
There's a lot of games like that though, where it's like once you get the pattern
Yeah.
down or whatever,
Exactly. That's part of the basic design of boss battles. But speaking of games that do an innovative job with creating boss fights, Sonic Mania actually came to mind, and there's some really interesting things there. You have a Puyo Puyo match against Dr. Robotnik.
Dr. Robotnik's Bean Machine was awesome.
Yep.
You have a race. I mean, there's all sorts of really fun, interesting ideas for boss battles that they took that weren't done in previous Sonic games or in previous platformers in general, and that's I think a lot of innovation and good ideas being implemented for fun boss fights. So I think Sonic Mania is actually one that came to mind that I thought about as we were discussing this.
And that's how you know it wasn't done by Sonic Team, because it's like, wow, this is enjoyable to play, and they're not basically treading the last 20 years.
And thoughtful.
Yeah,
someone took time to think about what would be exactly. And that's and everything fits the Sonic universe as well, which I think works very, very well. So you have Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, as mentioned before, and all sorts of things that are callbacks to previous games in the Sonic franchise. Everything fits the theme, which works really, really well. One other game, and a favorite game of all time of mine, and I think it's one of Tweak's favorites, though Josh is going to ugh and complain when I say this. Star Fox 64 has amazing boss fights.
No.
Star Fox 64 is so much fun, and there's a giant what's the word here, like a dogfight a la Independence Day with a UFO that lands in the middle and you have to blow up the center depending on the path. There's all sorts of just amazing fun boss fights in that game. I that is one of my favorite games for boss fights.
I really enjoy going back and playing that the Chinese version of that game. Not because the controller's a little bit better, so that helps. But the people that they paid to do the voice acting could not be less enthusiastic if they tried. You know, it sounds like a guy reading off like a phone center screen.
That's awesome. I would, if you're going to mention Star Fox 64, I would say that a game that ups the game even more, Panzer Dragoon Spy, has amazing boss battles in some of the areas, like when you're running through that forest and the creatures behind you and burrowing through the ground and it comes up in front of you. I love the battles in Panzer Dragoon Spy. I think
you know what?
Excellent battles.
2 games I can think of right now that have sweet boss battles. The Jumping Flash games, a part of that's just a product of the game itself, because it's like they're like that whole game is stupid in like the best of ways because it's like a fucking circus gone wrong sometimes. But the mechanics of the game made the bosses neat because someone's just bouncing on heads, but it's in like 3D and stuff. So it was kind of unique. But did you guys ever play Brave Fensu Musashi?
Yes.
Yeah.
That game had sweet fucking boss battles. Even like the very first boss battles, like we were fighting the knight as it like destroys the city and stuff. Like for like an action role playing game, it kind of took the whole boss battle concept a little more interesting than like East 3. Those boss battles kind of you just scream and hit the button and hope your health bar doesn't drop by the end. It had a really interesting take, especially at the time when you consider like Ocarina of Time's boss battles all sucked because it was just lock on, wait your turn, and then hit the thing, and it's pretty much the worst shit ever.
Isn't it like half of that game was playing tennis with?
Yeah, there was a lot of times where it was like you just hit the projectile back, and
I hated that in Ocarina of Time where you just like do the Z lock on and you just like do your footloose flash dance shit, move out of the way, and then hit a thing, and every boss battle devolves into that so quick. Whereas like Brave Fensu Musashi, you're jumping around like an idiot, screaming and flailing. You have like the weapons you've assimilated, but each one of them had like a different like cool mechanic, kind of like how Zelda used to be. With the boss mechanics, like in Link to the Past, when you go like into the Dark World, and all the boss battles have like a gimmick, which is Captain Obvious phones in and tells you use the weapon that came from the dungeon. But even so, the way they worked was always fun. Like the jellyfish thing in the second dungeon where you hook shot the thingies and stuff. Like Musashi had that kind of feel to it, whereas Link to the Past just had it was like a Mario Tennis tech demo with Zelda crap running around, and it was kind of horrible.
Right.
I was never a fan.
I was glad they changed the bosses back somewhat for Majora's Mask up until you got the Fierce Deity Mask, and then it was basically just like spam the same, sword laser attack, and it would just run through everything.
Yeah.
Like it was, it's cool because it's like, you get something worthwhile for finding everything, but
yeah.
It really made the last boss anticlimactic.
Yeah.
You were talking about Contra Legacy of War. There's a game that came out on the Turbo that is way better than that, and it's similar in the concept of kind of a run and gun, but a top view style one.
Final Zone 2?
Oh, almost.
Talking about Last Alert.
Yeah, of course I'm talking about Last Alert because the boss battles in that, while they are not exactly the most genius ways to have boss battles, it's the dialogue that happens before the battle actually starts.
Yeah. I mean that game is a shitty 80s action movie with controlled sequences through it. Like that game is so stupid, but it's awesome because of it.
Yes.
Yeah,
it is. I like it. I didn't like that you level up while you're playing.
Yeah.
It's kind of got RPG elements where you're like one-man army. Like
random shit just keeps popping in my head now. We're talking about boss battles. It's a spoiler if you've never played Magic Knight Rayearth on the Saturn, but that was the most surprise fucking end boss I have ever had in my life. You go from
genre swap.
Yeah, it's like suddenly you're not playing an action RPG like Zelda anymore. You're playing a vertical fucking shooter at the end of the fucking game, and it's like, wow, wasn't expecting that. And like as a kid, I was like half alert, and all of a sudden I'm like playing a vertical shooter, and I like sat up in the chair. I remember I knocked a fucking we call them Huggies, the juice barrels. I had one of those, and I like shot up and knocked it over. There's like juice all over my floor, and I'm like flailing trying to beat this thing, and I'm like, what the fuck?
You talking about those barrel-shaped things with like the tinfoil tops?
Yeah, the huggy things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, hugs. I think they're just called hugs.
Yeah, we call them
Yeah.
hugs.
Yeah, but that surprised the hell out of me. They're like, hey, you're playing a vertical shooter now. Get wrecked, kid. You fucking pay attention or die.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
One game that came to my mind, and I guess it's really two if we break it down, is Batman Arkham Asylum, which in and of itself is a knockoff of Metal Gear with Batman. So if you look at like Metal Gear Solid or Metal Gear Solid 2, you've got some really interesting boss battles in there. Everything from, and I don't want to spoil this to you, fighting Psycho Mantis where he's psychic and knows what moves you're using. Unless you plug the controller into port 2, then he can't read your mind. Or
Arkham Asylum has that same.
Arkham Asylum has a lot of the same. So I'm sure you've probably played Metal Gear Solid before.
Correct.
The concept of Metal Gear Solid is that a group of super powerful Foxhound operatives have taken over Shadow Moses Island, and the Lale Lule Lo have summoned Solid Snake to dig the DARPA chief out and to save the world from a nuclear explosion as your nemesis, Liquid Snake, is trying to capture a Metal Gear. So you're on an island, and you've got basically a bunch of, for all intents and purposes, super villains that have come up with a plot to take over the world. Okay, and you're needing to stealthily sneak around. Batman Arkham Asylum is your Batman. All of the Batman supervillains are on Arkham Island, and the Joker is building a Metal Gear, and you have to stop him from taking over the world. I'm exaggerating very slightly, but there are things that they borrow heavily from Metal Gear Solid. Everything from digging, climbing through vents and stealth, sneaking up on people and grabbing them from above or behind.
So wait, are you saying Solid Snake is actually Batman?
No, I'm saying that Batman in that game is Solid Snake. I mean, they basically
I'm okay with that. They're the same people now. The timelines have collided. We are good.
I need Batman to do the infinite ammo.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they're very, very similar games in terms of just the overall setting, the design, and everything else. And there's some really interesting boss battles in it. In Arkham Asylum, one that sticks out in my mind is there's a sequence where you have to go into the sewers and face off against Killer Croc. And instead of it being a fight, you have to stay on land while everything is sliding around, or he's going to get you in the water. And a lot of really fun, interesting boss battles that were done with, the difference between like a PS3 and a PS1 allowed them to be a little bit more creative with the mechanics than you could have with the original Metal Gear Solid. So I think that's actually a very well-designed, Western-designed game that, while a knockoff of Metal Gear Solid, has a lot of fun boss battles, as does Metal Gear Solid in and of itself.
Yeah, all the Metal Gear Solid games, like some of them are dumb, like when you fight Captain Roller Skater Dude, and it's like, what is this shit? What is happening? But still, it's like, okay, this is kind of neat. Like, this is a stupid gimmick, but it works somehow. But like, I remember at one point we were making fun of how stupid some of the boss battles were in Metal Gear, and now it's like, man, I miss that shit because games just kind of suck now. Like Metal Gear Solid 5, the boss battle sucked in that game. That game like wasn't the same kind of like interesting mechanics and gimmicks as the other ones.
The weird thing about 5 was there was two different Solid 5s. There was like I want to say obviously the first one and the second one, but I'm trying to remember. There was like a Chapter 1.
Ground
Zero. The rest of the game.
Yeah, Ground Zeroes and Phantom Pain.
Yeah, and none of it had good boss battles.
Wasn't it just a prelude or the precursor to what 5 was
Yeah,
supposed to be?
it was like a $40 demo of Metal Gear Solid 5.
Yep.
Yeah, I bought that, beat it in a day, wanted to kill myself. Oh, God.
That was how I felt about Metal Gear Solid 2, but I kind of agree with you. In retrospect, you go back and say, I actually did have a lot of fun with that game. I just had my expectations set way too high.
I mean, Metal Gear Solid 2 had so much dumb shit to do in it. Like, if you tried to dive up the stairs, you just, like, face plant and bounce and go, ugh! Or, like, I think every kid playing that as, Raiden grabbed a knocked out soldier and just started, dry humping him in the hallway. I think if you didn't do that, you're lying.
Wasn't there like also naked cartwheels?
Yeah, it was when he was like running around with his hand over his junk the whole time.
Yeah, and the Colonel's tweaking out, and he keeps talking about the MSX games and showing Zanzibar and shit. And you're doing cartwheels with your dick out in the fucking complex.
I remember getting to that part where and I'm like, this game is fucking stupid.
It's going off the rails pretty hardcore at that point, but then like now it's like, man, I miss that, and it's kind of sad because we made fun of that shit because it was so dumb.
Yeah, but now it's everything takes itself way too seriously, and you don't get anybody doing anything stupid like that anymore.
Well, the really interesting thing about that game is that it was clearly like a fuck you to the audience in a way that was, okay, you guys want a new Metal Gear game and you want to play as Solid Snake.
Here's your tanker demo.
Yes, here's your tanker demo. We don't want to make the game that you're asking for, but we're kind of stuck. So here's a game that's basically a soft reboot of the last game, only with a much more obnoxious character and a complete garbage mess of a story. Enjoy it. We're all unhappy.
I made fun of Raiden, because he's so cool. He's like, oh, it's ripping time. I'm Jack the Ripper. But now looking back, it's like, you know what? That fits perfectly with all the other stupid shit in the Metal Gear games. Like, every character is an idiot. Like, they're all dumb.
My favorite thing about the whole Kojima verse is the English names he gives things. Like if you go back to Snatcher, it's like he finds a Bible verse and he finds a Greek word or something, and he's like, ah yes, Shadow Moses Island. Or in Snatcher, Lucifer Alpha. Like he's just literally finding gibberish English words. He thinks they sound cool.
Well, yeah, but
that's the name of every top secret project.
That is a Japanese thing, and they think some of the dumbest shit sounds really cool, and it's like that word's dumb as hell in English, but all right, you do you.
I mean, look at the people that get like random Chinese tattoos and think that shit looks cool.
Yeah, but
let's look at that one on your arm, Tweak, the one that says "I love the IQ." It's the best.
Which one? I've got a couple scattered around.
Is that one called that one says I love IKEA? Is that what it says?
No, I don't actually have one that says I love IQ, but I do have an IQ standing by.
Jesus. Speaking of back to boss battles though, a really good one, like it's more of a comparison. Shadow of the Beast 1 on the Amiga and stuff. The end boss is a giant toe that throws like rocks at you. Yep. That's it. But and it was like, what the fuck was that? You beat the game like, I just killed a toe. I guess the toe was attached to a foot, was attached to the thing. Cool. But the Shadow of the Beast remake on PS4, I don't know if you've ever played that. You get like a Sin and Punishment endgame boss. Like it's like an into-screen Space Harrier-y fucking shooter. That game.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever played the Shadow of the Beast remake on PS4. It's fantastic. I think it's like $10 now. And you get the Amiga game wrapped in with it. But the boss at the end, like you get to fight more than a toe. It was like so rewarding after so long. You finally get to fucking not kill a toe to win the game. It was a great feeling. Just thought I'd point that out. But no, I mean you get a really cool shooty thing that like it's almost like Ray Earth where it comes out of nowhere. Because in Shadow of the Beast, you get a jetpack and a rifle, and it just goes all fucking weird at the end. They do that in 3D on the PS4, and they did it like really well. Like they transitioned. They didn't do like some of the shitty games like Oda Medius where you get that garbage Gradius knockoff horseshit on the 360.
That was bad.
Yeah, no, this instead of like, no, fuck doing the side-scrolling crap in 3D. We're gonna like make an actual 3D-ish shooter thing. Don't die. But it's pretty cool. Like if you want to see like weird end game stuff you're not gonna expect, I just spoiled it for everyone. But yeah, play that. That whole game though had cool boss battles and stuff. Because so none of you played that?
I played Shadow of the Beast on PS4, but I didn't play through it.
Okay.
Somebody else.
So you at least play where you like they made the combat almost like a rhythm game kind of. Like when you get into it, like you can like sort of combo into stuff, and depending how you like time the button presses, like you keep racking up points and stuff. Like that worked out well for the way the combos work when you fight bosses. Whereas the old one, you just go and that's it. You got like your one little gimp punch. But the new one, it starts to become like rhythmic, and then they incorporated that into the way the bosses work. So it was kind of cool that they remade the game properly.
I remember they tried something similar when it was what was that Donkey Kong game where it was like an actual like
Jungle Beat.
Yeah, where you had to use the fucking conga drum or whatever.
Oh. No, not like that.
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, was when you got him to the point where it's like you're standing and it's just like going to town trying to get as many hits in as possible.
Yeah. Sometimes it's neat when they try shit like that, but then it's like, this is dumb.
Well, yeah, it's dumb when it's like, Jesus, I just like busted both my hands, playing plastic conga drum.
I think Mario hates hands because, like, how old are you, Tweak?
30.
Okay, so you or your friends in like middle school must have come into school with the Mario Party palms, with the big. You look like you got fucking crucified.
There were 2 games that tore the skin off my thumb. One of them was Mario Party from that fucking Shy Guy flying game, and then Mario Tennis. Like for whatever reason, we were just playing that like all weekend one time, and it just shredded my hand.
Everybody put the N64 stick in the palm of their hand and went like that, and all my friends would come in with these big raw spots. It looked like they got crucified. And I'm like, I played PlayStation all weekend because I picked the right console for Christmas. You're all idiots. Yeah. I played Resident Evil 2. My hands aren't bleeding.
In Catholic schools, they blame stigmata.
They had a send away. I remember that for like some glove that you could use for that. And I'm like, this is the dumbest thing. Why not just hold it like you're supposed to?
So you're saying, okay, hold on, because the thing of the game, you were supposed to spin around in circles. So you're able to spin faster yourself than your actual palm. Because I remember the palm.
You set it on the ground and spun it with your palm like this.
Mm-hmm.
You could get them to go a lot faster.
Well, my friend, the way he would do it, he would hold it to his hand. And he would counter rotate, so you were getting like really quick because you were.
Oh shit! Yeah.
Oh geez, he'd be scientific.
Like, he'd be like bleeding, and it'd be like, cool, you won Mario Party, and now you can't use your hands for the rest of the week. That's neat, I guess. Like you probably would have beat me anyways, because I don't give a shit while playing this stupid game. Like
so Nintendo, that's so funny.
And it was just that one game too that like used that mechanic. It's like why?
Yep.
I mean, we were talking earlier in the chat thing about like the Tiny Toon Sports Spectacular, whatever the hell it was called, had stupid games like that. But you had a D-pad, you couldn't, palm destroy things or whatever. But a lot of mini games have the mechanic where it's time to spin around like an asshole, and I think the joysticks just made it worse.
Dude, I had what was it like the Doraemon party game for the Wii. And it had that same thing where it's based, and it's even worse because it's got that Wii motion control bullshit shoehorned into it.
Yeah.
So you're standing around there like wagging around like an idiot for like 90% of these games, and it's like, why? This isn't even fun.
Yeah.
Fuckers.
So tied to boss battles and tied to Nintendo products, one game that in and of itself is basically a bunch of boss battles is Punch-Out. And that Punch-Out series has some pretty fantastic boss battles in it because all of the bosses have some sort of a tell. There's some sort of a gimmick to beating almost all of them. And again, really, really well-designed boss-type fights.
Yeah, definitely.
Dude, I got embarrassed going back and playing that because I can't beat the flamenco dancer guy anymore. And it's like, not only is that stupidly early in the game, so it makes you look bad, but it's like I remember this guy being able to be knocked out in like 10 seconds.
So if you're talking about Mike Tyson's Punch-Out on NES, there's 2 times you fight Don Flamenco.
This is the first time.
Yeah, you just have to alternate which direction you punch him from, and he won't stop, and you can just knock him out right away.
Oh, okay.
Does it count?
I was like, I know there's like some stupid way to do it that that's how we used to do when we were younger, where you could like take him out in the first 30 seconds and he'd never get back up.
Do eggplant wizards count as bosses, or are they just assholes?
No, but tied to what you were bringing up about games turning into shooters, Kid Icarus turns into a shooter on the last level as well.
Yeah, dude.
A long ass shoot 'em up level.
And then you fight that big ass fucking Brussels sprout at the end.
Yeah.
Medusa's Eye. Oh yeah.
No, that's a Brussels sprout. Speaking of Nintendo, though, that's another great example of boss battles getting done even better. When you go from Metroid to Super Metroid, the fucking Kraid and Ridley fights are fucking sweet on Super Metroid.
Dude, the Crocomire fight, though, when he comes back out of the acid as the skeleton.
Fucking scared the shit out of me.
that is one of the coolest things I've ever seen in a boss battle.
That was another moment where I thought I was good to go, and I'm just like casually derping my way. Then he comes barreling out, fucking jumped, started flailing, kicked my juice or whatever over, started screaming, and it's like he's dead. It's just fucking with you.
Dude, we need to get you like a cup with a lid on it.
Well, you know, there was times where I'd be playing games with like a can of Coke between my thighs while I was sitting there, and something would happen. I'd like squeeze, and there'd just be like Coke shooting up. It's like, oh, I look like I pissed myself, but I just keep playing. Yeah.
Christ.
I'm in too deep now. Got to keep going.
Super Metroid had a lot of cool bosses though, like the Ghost Pirate ship, and like when you go to Meridia and you fight that big ass boogerfish thing. Like a lot of those battles, the mechanics itself were neat, but the environments and like Super Metroid's atmosphere in general made a lot of those bosses even more creepy. Like even the first time you fight Ridley, you know, you're locked in that room and you just come swooping around, and then the self-destruct thing goes on. Like that was like a pretty intense introduction to blowing shit up in Super Metroid, because you don't do anything before that really. You're just fucking around in the space station, and then here he comes, and you're like, oh fuck, and you're running around like an idiot.
Well, and that game is a masterpiece of setting mood and setting tone, because the music, the tone, the number of enemies. What's great is something dramatic will happen. You'll go to a room that was completely empty and docile, and you'll come back, and it's swarming with enemies.
Yeah, like right at the beginning when the camera sees you, then when you go putzing your way back through, suddenly all the space pirates are there, and you're like, what the fuck? And you're getting shot at immediately. You're like, ah. Yeah, like shit like that. Like
rotating around you.
Yeah, when you come back from, what is it, the morph, you had to go down and get the morph ball, and then they're on the way back there.
Yeah. They're like, hey, what the fuck? But even like
that booger thing though, I remember like you could actually kill him like one, you know, by using the grappling hook in one of the electric things on the side too.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really cool at the time, where it was like there's multiple ways to kill this thing too.
Yeah, my friends used to laugh when I would fight Kraid. Like I would just drill him and he'd be dead. They're like, how do you kill him so fast? Because I just like ride up and just annihilate him with missiles. And they're like, what the fuck? Because my friends, when they played, they were like all like they were a bunch of pussies while they were playing. They were like, and I'm just in there like Rambo, just going nuts. And it's like, who cares if you're losing health? Just kill him, and then you're gonna get a ton of health. Just don't die. And they're over there like fucking around like idiots. But that I don't know what it was. Like I know the boss. It's that big like bouncy plant thing that like opens, and it's like a rotten apple inside. The big spike ball.
Spore spawn, I think they called it, or something.
Yeah, that battle was cool, partially because of the weird music that plays. It's like that like wonked out piano music. But that boss battle was cool because it got faster as you pissed it off and killed it, and it made it like, you know, interesting.
The Fantoon in the Ghost Pirate ship pissed me off so much. I think he killed me more than anything else in that game.
Really? Yeah, that whole ghost ship area was kind of a pain in the ass because like the electric floor stuff that can zap you and shit. Like you aren't paying attention and you just get hit. And you're like, ugh.
It was so cool though, like, you know, going from everything's like dead and, you know, there's nothing in there, and then turning the power on and it's like, oh shit, everything kills you.
Yeah, and that was a cool battle though, and even getting to the ghost ship, like the setup of like climbing over all the destroyed stuff through the water, like Criteria's like whole atmosphere was just weird because of the lighting and the color scheme they picked. And then they fucked it all up with Metroid Prime and made it do like Zelda, where hey, just lock on and roll around and then shoot. It's your turn to shoot. Go ahead and shoot. Oh no, dodge, and then they just fucking ruined it, just like fucking Ocarina of Time.
You also had Fusion in there as well.
Yeah, Fusion was cool though. That, especially Fusion, like it was almost like a Michael Myers thing, where like the creepy music would be playing, and then here comes the fucking mutant Samus thing stomping towards you and shit. And you're like, oh fuck. Like that was fun because you were just being chased, and it set the mood and made me drop the Game Boy a lot.
So another game with awesome boss battles that we haven't touched on is Nights into Dreams.
I hope you don't mean the Wii one, do you?
No, that's Journey into Dreams.
That's Journey into the garbage can. That's what that is.
I don't think it's absolutely terrible, but it's not very good.
Here's my thoughts on Nights into Dreams 2, or Journey into Dreams. I remember playing it and being like, well, I can't wait till I get to the actual game part where I fly around. And I remember like, oh, cool, I'm finally at the flying section. Now I'm assuming I won't have to do any of the on-land stuff. Oh, no, I'm back to doing on-land stuff. This is fucking stupid. When am I going to go back to playing the game?
The flying
This
wasn't
is
even
the game.
the
game is on land. And you walking around and talking to stuff. And that's when it kind of hit me. I'm like, oh, that's why this is so terrible. And it took a while because the flying, even though it wasn't great, I'm like, okay, this is the first level. This is just the tutorial for how this works. It looks like Knights. It feels like Knights. But yeah, the boss battles in Knights were all very cool. There's one where you're knocking a boss through wood rooms, basically, and through the wall until you hit it out of the area. You're operating on a timer. Some of them you're having to hit stuff onto the other side of like a giant 3D grid. Very, very innovative, clever boss work, and that was really Sega at their absolute best.
Yeah. Speaking of Sega, how about no, dude? I shit you not. You ever beat Echo the Dolphin? Like, you know the plot of the game. Like, you end up on a fucking spaceship. Like, you time travel back to the beginning of the game, get sucked up into the ship, and you have like fucking sonar lasers, and you kill aliens that look like they're from the movie Alien.
There was a plot to that game?
Yeah, dude, no, I told someone at work, they thought I was fucking with them. They're like, no, that's just some stupid kid dolphin game. I'm like, no, like, you time travel and get powers from, like, the Earth, from the asteroid thing gives you all these powers, and you're like a fucking super dolphin, and you time travel. They're like, what? I'm like, you go to Atlantis, you time travel back to the day everyone gets sucked up in the vortex, and you voluntarily go up, and then you're swimming through a spaceship, well, flying or whatever the hell you're doing, but you fight the alien looks like it's from Alien. It's the same weird like claw face thing, and it's like no one ever believes me when I tell them that exists in Echo the Dolphin. Like, you fight aliens with your sonar. So that's, everyone should go look at that. I'm not lying. That's how the game ends. You can fucking blow up aliens on a spaceship with your fucking sonar. It's one of the most what the fuck moments of my life in gaming, I think. Like, when I find out I'm gonna go time travel with the dolphin and shoot lasers at a spaceship. Like, what the fuck? Like, how much acid was Ed Annunziata on when he fucking came up with that? It was fucking cool though. You fight, there's a pterodactyl in it too. When you go back to there's fucking dinosaurs in that game.
So how many people that worked on that went on to work on LSD for the PlayStation?
I mean, they were probably doing LSD. I don't know if they were working on LSD. I don't know. Like, did you know that whole game wasn't made by Japanese people? Like,
yeah, it was an STI development.
Yeah,
I remember seeing that when Sega had like their old summer CES show, and that was like their like, oh, this is going to be the first high art game, and they were really promoting it as it's not just a video game, it's an evolution of games. And of course it was something that came out, they spent a whole lot of money on marketing it, sold okay. No one I ever knew finished the game, which tells you all you need to know about it.
it's a hard game, like, because the controls are both amazingly well done and frustrating as hell, which kind of makes it a hard game to play. But
Right.
that kind of sucks. But I like that game. It's one of my favorite games on the Sega. And no one believes me when I tell them that you fucking shoot aliens in it.
I mean, that sounds like something that you're just making up, though. You know,
yeah,
you wouldn't think that that's in something like that.
Yeah, they're called like the vortex aliens. Yeah, they already eradicated humans, and then they start eating everything in the ocean to like get energy. So like at the beginning, you know, when you're fucking around, and the other dolphin's like, I bet I can jump higher than you, and then you jump up, and it triggers that vortex. That's all the aliens being abducting all the sea life. That's what that is. That tornado is them being abducted. That's no one fucking believes me. Now you know. Echo is fucking serious as fuck.
The more you know. Yeah, Echo is awesome.
It's
All right, we're getting to just about the last minute here. One thing I wanted to mention here, and I'll let you each kind of mention one more game each with a little bit of additional information, if you wish to, about what has an awesome boss battle. Maybe something that we haven't mentioned yet, or just another mention, whatever. But I want to thank virtually nobody that watched this live, which is cool. No chat.
You scared him off with your lawyer story.
That was so funny. That was so good, though. I laughed so hard. But yeah, if anybody is out there and interested in hanging out with us. You can check us out on facebook.com/gamehuggers. And also follow me on Twitter at _Joshua Turbo. Don't forget the underscore, as it is most important underscore on all the internet. And then, check us out on TuneIn, Podomatic, and iTunes. The RSS feed is on our Facebook page as well. So if you want to listen to our audio-only versions of these podcasts, we have those as well. So my boss battle that I want to share about is the first time I played through Super Mario World. No, I'm kidding. Actually, I did think the Bowser ending with the big giant airship that he was in was pretty cool. The first time I had seen the end of Super Mario, that was pretty cool. But I honestly think that the Bonk games on the Turbo have some really cool boss levels. Bonk's Adventure and Bonk's Revenge had come out around the time when Super Mario World and Sonic 1 were also out. But I think that the Bonk bosses are cooler even, because the
definitely.
sprites for those bosses are gigantic, and that was really, really cool to see when you're fighting a boss that's basically an entire screen tall. But even a precursor to that, not necessarily a precursor, but what before that, I'd say was the first stage boss of Ninja Spirit. That was freaking awesome. The first time I've seen that, where you're just like giant full screen ninja samurai dude shooting like will-o-wisps and other ninjas are flying at you, and it's like, that is a cool boss battle. I like that one a lot. That was really neat. Connor, how about you?
For me, I guess as far as things we haven't mentioned, I've always been like a big horror movie type of person. So like the Castlevania boss fights for me always just seem to have some really cool stuff. That and Splatterhouse.
Yeah.
The Splatterhouse ones, they're stupidly easy because it's the same thing. It's the same problem as everything else. It's like you get, you find the one spot and you just sit there punching and over and over again, and it's nothing. But
right,
the aesthetic was cool, and it's like, that's some cool shit.
Some cool shit. How about you, Dan?
Ninja Gaiden for Xbox. Or Ninja Gaiden Black for Xbox actually had some really cool boss battles. Game is hard as all heck, but once you got a strategy down for the individual boss and properly mastered all of the mechanics you would learn throughout the level, that's when you could actually beat the boss.
And Ark and the Farty Bunch?
Mine's a little bit weird. It's like a big glom of games, but the AD&D Gold Box games, when they throw their, like, there's always encounters, but when they throw like the actual boss-ish encounter, sometimes the boss is like a fuckload of dragons, or like at the end of Pool of Radiance, you fight the brass dragon that's been possessed. Like, those battles, the way they present them matches the story so well, and they every time manage to give you that weird, like, epic spazzed out feeling where it's a turn-based strategy battle. Like, every one of those, you're like on the edge of your seat, like frantically trying to decide what to do with your party, because like one wrong move and everyone gets fucking obliterated. And it was just fun, where almost every Gold Box game, the boss encounters had that kind of setup where like you're just like staring at the screen like, what do I do? Like, this could go so wrong, and you're always taking chances hoping your plan's gonna work. And to me, that made that game a lot more fun than some of the other role-playing games at the time. And like, it's some of my most memorable shit from role-playing games was that stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think the SSI games were always great too, because you'd never fight the monsters by themselves. They're always like followed by a horde of monsters.
Oh yeah.
There's you have to get through the horde first, and then you get to the boss. Just like, by that point, you're already like at half hit points. So it's like, oh fuck, great, that's awesome. Yeah.
Fuck, I need to go play that stuff now. Curse of the Azure Bonds.
Yeah. Awesome. One that we didn't even mention was like Final Fantasy games. Those usually have pretty epic boss battles and stuff.
Yeah.
Too.
Cuphead.
Kafka.
Yeah, Cuphead was pretty cool.
Gross. Yeah, that's so fucking awesome. Those boss battles are pretty intense.
Yeah.
Anyway, awesome. I think we could definitely do another one of these in the future too.
We should do a freaking Ultima Game Huggers.
That would be awesome.
Yeah,
we can some Ultima experts.
We can also talk about how bad Lord British's new game is.
Oh yeah, what is that?
Shroud of the Avatar, dude, it is a shit show. He's not. He got DCEO, and they're like, oh, it's because he wants to be the creative director. I'm like, I think it's because he fucked up, and they told him he can't be CEO anymore.
It's because he's been terrible for years.
Oh, it's so bad. It's such a fall from grace. What a disaster. The Ultimate games would be fun to talk about.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. I would mostly talk about the NES, the original Exodus and Quest of the Avatar for the NES. Are like my
Yeah,
two
well,
favorites, but
those were good. I think Ultima Exodus is the best version of Ultima 3. Like, it's better than the one that Lord British made himself. It's so much better.
I think the soundtrack alone is.
Oh, yeah.
I love that game. It's super good. It's weird because FCI like literally couldn't make any good games except for the first two Ultimas on the NES. Otherwise,
Yeah.
For some reason, I don't think FCI made that. I think some other Japanese publisher made Ultima Exodus for Famicom.
Pony Canyon.
Yeah, it was Pony Canyon.
okay.
You're absolutely right. And they then kind of said like, "Oh, let's make it more like Dragon Quest." So you had something that intentionally had anime style art on the Famicom box that wound up in the game, and
Yep.
they did things to make it more like a console RPG, which made that more fun. And that was the first console
Cool.
RPG of sorts that I ever played as well, was Ultima Exodus.
It made a lot of sense, though, because, Ultima
Well,
kind of influenced
we need to
Dragon
do this
Warrior.
on the Ultima episode. We're gonna do it.
Yeah.
I was like already starting to think of like, oh, I want to talk about Warriors of Destiny and how fucking awful that was on the NES. But I'm like, we got otherwise go crazy.
If we do one the next time, if you do an Ultima one, I have my Ultima 2 big box for the Apple II. It's been signed by Lord British. I'll go whip it out.
Ooh, yeah, I want you to whip it up.
Whip it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, buddy.
All right. Anyway, thank you guys for paying attention. We have a viewer again. I don't know who it is. Probably
Probably that dude that wants to fight me from last week.
All right. Anyway, thank you guys so much for being a part of the show. Ark,
Yeah.
Connor, and Dan.
Bye bye. Yeah.
There it is. All right. Take it easy, guys. Remember, always wash your feet.
Okay.
night.
Bye.
Bye.